Welcome into the Off-Brand Avalanche podcast. Today we're going to be talking the Eastern Conference playoffs and who is going to meet the Avalanche in the Stanley Cup final, and then we'll give you our off-brand Stanley Cup champion. But before we get into that, today we have a couple things to touch on. Some notable things going on around the league. The draft lottery is scheduled for this week, on Friday, I believe. So we'll actually get to know who, if it's a bottom 7 team, who has the top 3 picks, and if it's not, like, what the potential is for a team losing the play-in to get one of those picks. What do you guys have any thoughts on the draft lottery situation?
I think it's just a little bit interesting. If there is a team outside that top 7 that ends up winning, I feel like some of the teams might not take the play-in rounds 100% seriously. If they know that they don't have like a legitimate shot at winning the Stanley Cup.
A team like Montreal, maybe, who's like, hey,
yeah,
we if we lose this, we're at worst we're picking 8th, and at best, like, maybe we get the first overall pick in Lafreniere. And if you're Montreal, you got to think like, the odds of us winning the cup are not high. But at the end of the day, I feel like most NHL teams are going to give it their best shot, regardless.
Yeah.
But there is definitely that possibility. There are a couple teams. The New York Rangers are an interesting one. Theoretically, the Rangers could win the draft lottery and the Stanley Cup. It would require a couple things to happen. They have a pick from Carolina. Mm-hmm. So that pick, though, for the Brady Shea trade is the later of Carolina's 2 first-round picks. Carolina has their own in Toronto's. But the pick from Toronto is top 10 protected. So if that one ended up top 10, then New York would automatically get Carolina's. So the only way that this can happen for New York is if two of the top 3 lottery picks end up being from the play-in teams, and then Toronto and Carolina both lose their play-in rounds. Carolina actually plays New York, so that'll be a little easier for New York. And then Toronto and Carolina get those picks, which would be a very weird chain of events. But technically, the New York Rangers can get Lafreniere and the Stanley Cup.
That would be very interesting. A totally outside shot, but yes, that is possible.
Yeah, not likely, but it could happen.
There have been some COVID positive tests around the league as well. So the NHL hasn't necessarily made like a full-on statement on if that's going to impact the 4-phase startup process. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks and see if there's any further positive tests that come along. I mean, they are still practicing in the small groups. So
yeah, definitely 11 positive cases, 3 of those in Tampa Bay. It's interesting, like, my level of skepticism has definitely been on the rise over the last few days.
Yeah.
I was, like, thinking of it as a sure thing before, but now I'm a little less sold. I'm still leaning towards thinking this is going to happen, but there's definitely a real possibility that this is the most talked about playoffs that never happens.
The World Health Organization came out today and said that they saw the greatest increase of positive corona tests that they have seen so far. And I've been kind of in the boat that, yes, we do have to start opening some stuff up to kind of, let the economy bounce back. But at the same time, it's not necessarily like we're seeing a decline in corona tests. We have seen, like, the curve flatten, but it's not like it's going down and still day by day keeps getting higher and higher. So
yeah, absolutely. And it feels like there's more cases, but we're taking less precautions, which it's we're going to have to see how that plays out. Zach, what are your thoughts on, where do you stand on whether or not you think this is going to happen, the whole playoff scenario?
I feel like the playoffs are going to end up happening. It's just been so hyped up, and even if you have to go no fans in the end, I think in 2 hub cities, the players are isolated. I think this one will happen. I think this is going to be interesting to see what happens in years later down the road in the 2021 season, how we take that. Are we going to do no fans all season? Are we going to travel like everywhere around? Are all the teams going to do their normal travel schedules? But right now, I think the two hub cities, even if they have to go no fans, playoffs are going to happen this time around. But I'd be more skeptical about next year.
Yeah,
I'm definitely leaning that way as well. What are your thoughts, Marshall? You think it's going to happen, or are you leaning away towards maybe not?
I think it's going to happen, but like Zach was saying, I don't think there's even a slight chance that we'll see fans in games. You know, like even by the Stanley Cup Finals, there's just too much uncertainty surrounding having fans in arenas that the NHL like is not entirely comfortable with, or any league for that matter. So, it's interesting. New Zealand, I know it's not a hockey related subject, but New Zealand did become the first country without any positive corona tests throughout the entire population. And they were actually open. They actually started playing rugby and had 100% capacity in the stadiums.
Yeah, it was crazy to see
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Well, that's good news. I mean, it bodes well for the rest of the world catching up.
Yeah.
The last story I wanted to touch on, tangentially NHL related, the CHL is facing a lawsuit from players over some hazing that's been going on, and this has been a problem in hockey for decades now. Basically, the big story that I saw was a 15-year-old forced to do cocaine as basically just being hazed as a rookie on the team. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's totally crazy. That poor guy. But I mean, first of all, you can just stand up for yourself and say no. First of all, but I understand why it's a problem and why that needs to be weeded out of the game. And for the most part, I think it's not happening too heavily in the NHL. For the most part, this is young kids, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds.
Yeah, this is typically a junior.
This is
thing.
this is not.
I know every.
I was just gonna say
every juniors team has stuff like. Go ahead, Marshall.
I was just gonna say, it's definitely a little bit more interesting, like amongst the CHL teammates compared to the NHL. It's like the CHL kids, they're coming in at 15 years old, and they're still gonna have 20. They're gonna have 20-year-olds who, at that age, there's so much more, like maturing to do from the 15-year-old's perspective. Whereas like a 21-year-old compared to like a 30-year-old in the NHL, there's not too much of like a physical maturity. There's obviously some
definitely a difference, but not that same extent.
Yeah, I don't really even know what to think about that. I'm sure it happens here and there, but
there's definitely a line when it comes to
like
that.
I was that 16-year-old coming into a juniors team and getting hazed a little bit, but we never had anything like go over the line. There's always
there's
like
a line.
A certain amount of, hey, rookies pick up water bottles, rookies do whatever. But there have certainly been quite a few cases in the CHL in particular where it's clearly gone over the line.
Yeah, I mean, some stuff is just kind of part of the camaraderie, like the rookie games and all that stuff. It can be really fun.
Yeah.
But to a very certain extent. I mean, being on a rookie on like a juniors team and on like an ACHA team, you had to do stuff that other players wouldn't have to do. But I never thought it was like a problem for me. It was just something that was kind of fun for the boys, and it's just kind of part of being a rookie. But when it comes to the extent that you're forcing someone else to
ingest
take cocaine
things
out of their out of their will. That can be, a 15-year-old doing cocaine is not necessarily the greatest thing ever for that person, even if it is just
absolutely.
one time or whatever. I was also reading that like rookies would have to bob for apples in a cooler full of the other teammates like urine and saliva.
Oh,
yeah,
that's disgusting.
Wait, was that in the CHL?
I don't even who comes up with this?
Yeah,
stuff?
this
Oh my
is all in the
God.
CHL. There's a lot of stuff that apparently was happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's pretty freaking disgusting. Hopefully the CHL can figure out a way
they
to
need to get a
not
handle
have
on
that
that.
happen.
Holy.
Zach, who do you think that falls on? Like, whose job is it to make sure this isn't happening?
I mean, kids will be kids, and at that point, I know it's hard to put that responsibility on a management team to babysit 16-year-olds. But I mean, you got to know what's going on with your team, and at that point, you know there's
Yeah.
weird shit going on with your team if 15-year-olds are getting hazed to do coke in your locker rooms or in your house parties or whatever.
Yeah.
In my
I
opinion,
think definitely the coaching staff needs to take a
Mhm.
role and kind of you don't need to be there every second, but you need to know what's going on. And
Right.
you need to, if players are clearly uncomfortable in the locker room, you need to know why.
And I feel
In
like
my
you'd be
opinion,
able
I
to
think
feel
it-
that as a coach.
yeah.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think it kind of falls on the captains on the team.
That is a good point too. That is a great point.
Yeah.
I mean,
They definitely
I totally
have a role
agree
to
with
play
that
in
as well.
For sure.
and especially like a 15-year-old coming into a CHL team, like that kid's obviously done plenty work to get there, and he could be a vital part of your organization in the years going forward. And I
Exactly.
feel like as a captain, your job is to like put the team
Yeah.
in the best position possible to win, not only now but in years like in the future. And hazing kids to do stuff like we've talked about doesn't really show any great captaincy skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think honestly, in a lot of cases, it might even be the captains that are
Yeah.
the ones putting them through this. So.
Mhm.
It's very true.
It's a rough scenario. Definitely a lot of people that need to kind of step up and make some changes here. And it's a systematic issue, but one that's been around for a long time, and we kind of really need to figure out how to solve it. But let's move into our bracket. So last week we did our Western Conference bracket. We picked every series. We ended up with the Avs in the Stanley Cup Final. It was super interesting because all of the top 4 seeds won, and then the top 2 seeds made it to the Western Conference Final.
Yeah.
But the Avs did end up getting the upset in that one. So the Avs will face the winner of the Eastern Conference. So we'll go through every single one of these. We actually don't have to do any tiebreakers this time. We are missing Krim, so it's just the 3 of us. Whichever team 2 of us pick, I guess, moves on. And then we'll play out the bracket, see who wins the East, and then we'll do our Stanley Cup Final and pick our off-brand champion.
Absolutely.
So, starting out with the 5-12, Penguins, Canadians. What do you guys think?
This is the only beginning series that I actually don't like because I feel like the Penguins are going to run away with this in the end, and I feel like every other series in this is going to be very close. But this one, I have to take Penguins easily over the Canadians. Canadians are just not even close to being ready. That's pretty much just the bottom line on them. They're just not there.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Canadians are, there's been a lot of talk that they've taken 2 teams too many. The Canadians, one of those teams, seem to be in it more because of the size of their market than really the caliber of their team. So I'm also going to say, Canadians, the last team in. The Penguins, you still got Crosby there. You still got Malkin. You've got that nice goalie tandem, or even trio, really, with Yari and DeSmith and Matt Murray still there. I think the Penguins are just head and shoulders better than the Canadians. Maybe the Canadians have some flash with the Drouin and Domi. Maybe they step up a little bit, but I'm taking the Penguins. Marshall, what do you think?
I'm in the same boat. I definitely have to take the Penguins. One kind of interesting X factor, though, is if Carey Price can kind of turn it around for a series or not. The goalies I've been saying throughout our other brackets, that goalies are a very big X factor in any series. A hot goalie can knock out pretty much any team.
Especially in a 5-game play-in.
Yeah, exactly. But I still don't hate the Penguins goalie situation, obviously. A quick question on that: what do you think is going to end up happening with the Penguins goalie situation in years coming?
Well,
You
if
think
we want
Jari's
to
gonna
get
be
into
their guy?
Murray's on his way out.
I would
I
agree.
think DeSmith is the backup, and then
I would agree.
Yari's the starter. Is it Jari or Yari? I always forget.
I always
Pretty
hear
sure it's
Jari,
Jari.
Tristan
Yeah,
Jari,
same.
Oh, then Jari.
but
Mhm.
yeah.
Confusing. The Jays are tough in hockey.
Zach, what do you think?
So I think their starter is going to probably be Jari. I think Matt Murray is going to end up finding his way out of Pittsburgh in the end. He's a 2 Stanley Cup winning goaltender. He'll get paid somewhere else. I don't think it's going to be in Pittsburgh. The Avalanche.
Rumored
maybe,
even
though.
to be traded to the
maybe.
Avs.
Yeah, the Avalanche.
Yeah, definitely rumors that the Avs were interested at the deadline. Something we could see play out. I'd be curious. Maybe. What do you think, Marshall? Where do you stand on that?
I'm not really buying that. I think the Avs are really comfortable, not entirely comfortable with the goalie situation right now. But I think Francouz has proven enough this year that he needs to be looked at for another couple years. I mean, they did give him an extension for a couple more years. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Grubauer, but it's Grubauer. He still stepped up for us last year and was the key reason why we made that playoff push and was fantastic in the playoffs. And not only that, we have some goalies in the pipeline. So I just don't really see the Avs entirely flooding their goaltending situation until we absolutely have to.
Okay, maybe. I think they'll. You're always looking to upgrade every position if you can, so that's probably why they were in on Murray. They said, "Hey, what's the price?" Because if we can get him for a second round pick or something, if we can get Murray dirt cheap, we're gonna do it. Yeah. But I don't think they're actively seeking out goaltenders at the moment.
Yeah.
Back to the Pittsburgh-Montreal series, I just want to touch on this year. The Pittsburgh is 2-1, so they do have the series. They did win the series, the regular season series this year, but Montreal did take a game, so nothing like they didn't get swept. Put up a fight a little bit. 6-3 Pittsburgh has won 6 of the last 9 meetings over the last 3 years. Montreal has won 3 of those, so really pretty much the same situation as this year. Nothing particularly, there's nothing particular going one way or the other here. Pittsburgh kind of the better team and has won two-thirds of the games, so kind of about what you'd expect to see. Yeah. So let's get into Carolina, New York Rangers. This is the one that I have a hard time with. I love Carolina. I also really like New York, and Carolina struggles with New York. Mm-hmm. New York swept the season series this year, 4-0. In the last 3 years, the Rangers are 10-2 against the Hurricanes. How do you guys think it plays out this year? Zach, you go ahead and start here.
The Hurricanes are obviously a really strong team coming off an Eastern Conference Final appearance. The Rangers, like you said, they got Zuccarello. They still got the King there. They got their defense kind of scares me a little bit, but that's okay. I feel like in a 5-game plan, obviously you can get it done. And like you said, they have taken the season series. Just on my gut feeling, I know the Hurricanes are a better team though, so I got to take the Hurricanes in this one.
Yeah,
I'm in the same boat.
Marshall, what do you think?
I'm in the same boat. I think the Rangers are still a year away. Panarin had a Hart Trophy caliber season. The thing though is they do not the King. I think is going to be on his way out. Another goalie that's been rumored to come to the Avalanche for at least a season or two. They have a very interesting young goaltending dynamic with Shesterkin and who's their second one? I can't remember.
Georgiev.
Oh yeah, Georgiev. And I think they're going to be very solid goaltending tandem in here in the future, but they still are just first year goaltenders in the league. They have a bunch of young talent. The Hurricanes are just a little bit more developed, and there's a reason that they're a 6 seed instead of an 11 seed. I do love Svechnikov on the Hurricanes, Sebastian Aho. And if Slavin can come back, then that's Dougie Hamilton too.
Hamilton will be back.
So that is a huge boost for the Hurricanes.
And then Brett Pesce will probably miss this series, but could be back for later on.
That's a huge boost for the Hurricanes.
Probably the deepest defense in the NHL right now.
Yeah, I'm taking the Hurricanes. So.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also taking the Canes, but I had a tough time with it. I just think they've got too much talent. At the top, that first line, I think one of the best in hockey with Svechnikov, Teravainen, and Aho. Mm-hmm. They've got, like I said, the deepest defense in hockey. They've got Slavin and Hamilton on that top line. You've also got Brady Shea, Sami Vatanen. You've got Hayden Fleury. You're going to be scratching guys like Trevor Van Riemsdyk and definitely quality NHL players are getting scratched on that defense. I mean, a lot of big names there.
That's just kind of a testament to how good the Canes are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're better than a 6 seed in reality. And I think they did a lot at the deadline that helped them, bringing in Vinny Trocheck as well. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go ahead and advance the Canes here. Despite not having beaten the Rangers this year, we think they'll take the series. Let's get into the Islanders and the Panthers. This one a little bit closer. The Islanders being the 7 seed, the Panthers the 10. But the Islanders have taken the series 3-0 this year. The Panthers haven't won one. How do you guys think this one plays out? Marshall, you go ahead.
I'm actually taking the Panthers here. I love the way the Panthers are constructed. From their forwards to the D to, their goaltending situation. Any one of their players can catch fire, and they also have one of the all-time greatest head coaches in league history. The Panthers have the most 100 most players within the top 100 in goal scoring. They're just an offensive powerhouse when they want to be. And if Bobrovsky can kind of return to some of his old form for just this run, I think the Panthers can take this series and maybe even be like a dark horse Eastern Conference Finals team.
I would agree.
Zach?
I wouldn't say Eastern Conference Finals, but I do think the X factor in this series is Bobrovsky. If he catches fire, like Marshall says, a goalie can steal a series for you.
I think the stoppage maybe helps him.
Right, and there's really just no all-stars or anything on the Islanders that can... Matthew Barzal, I guess you could say, is going to be there one day, but that's about it I could think of.
Yeah, and, borderline. But definitely not a ton... New York's deeper than they are top-heavy. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take New York, but it looks like I've been outvoted. Some of the things I like about New York, I think they have a goalie tandem that could catch fire with Greiss and Varlamov there. Still got to love Varley. We know he's a guy who he has his struggles at times, but when he's hot, he can be a Vezina caliber goalie like he was back in 13-14. So maybe he catches fire, and I think he can help them a lot. I think the Islanders are an underrated team, but the Panthers are going to advance anyway. I've been outvoted, so let's get into Toronto and Columbus. This is your 8-9 game, so the closest in seeding. These two are neck and neck trying to get that last playoff spot. Really a couple other teams in the race, but these were the two. They finished at 8-9, so Toronto, very talented. I think Toronto maybe has one of the most offensive talent, at least star talent, in the NHL with Matthews, Tavares, Marner, even Nylander, all kinds of guys there that can put the puck in the net and make plays. But Columbus got a lot of talent as well. Maybe not what they had last year, but some future stars like Pierre-Luc Dubois. How do you guys think this one's going to play out?
I'm taking the Leafs here for sure. I think the Blue Jackets were kind of another team that a little bit outperformed my expectations due to some hot goaltending and good coaching from Torts. Elvis Merzlikins, it's going to be interesting to see how he ends up being in the NHL. He started out his first game in the NHL letting in 6 goals and being pulled. But then after that, he had a stretch, I think, 4 shutouts in 8 games or something ridiculous like that, 5 shutouts in 10 games. I think he'll be the goaltender of the future, but I don't think that he's on Frederik Andersen's level yet. Like you said, Billy, the Leafs just have so much offensive firepower, and I think that they're definitely outclassing the Blue Jackets in this series.
Fair enough. What do you think, Zach?
This one was hard for me. This is probably the closest series in the first in the play-in round for me. The Leafs obviously are stacked up front, and if they want to get it done, they have to get it done this year. So in the end, I got to take the Leafs, but the Blue Jackets, this Elvis guy, he's kind of that Matt Murray kind of dark horse. Maybe he could lead them all the way, or do some crazy shit like that. They got some good defense with Werenski and Seth Jones still there. They just don't have the offensive firepower that can handle the Leafs.
Yeah, definitely. I think Elvis Merzlikins is the biggest X factor in this series. Mm-hmm. My favorite Avs game this year, my favorite Avs moment was watching Nathan McKinnon blast the hardest shot I've ever seen past Merzlikins' shoulder to put the Avs up 2-1 with a couple minutes left. And Merzlikins was red hot that game and just ran into an unstoppable force. But, man, I got to watch him play, and, like, that guy, when he's on, he's on. So definitely scary, but I don't see how you don't give the Leafs this series. You know, all that talent, and the reason they're so low is because they started out so slow. They really picked it up after making a coaching change there, and they've still got some issues to work out, but this team has all the talent in the world. I think a top 5 team in the NHL in terms of talent, and I think they started to play like it for stretches there. They're streaky, but if they catch fire at the right time, this is a team that could go all the way.
Yeah.
So they're going to advance for us. Let's
Cool.
get into our second round here. I guess the first round, technically. Now this is the official playoffs beginning. Let's start with the Bruins. They get the winner of the upset here, so they'll take the Panthers. We are reseeding these. I know there was initially, when the play-in format was initially announced, it was expected to be a bracket. It has since been determined that we will reseed after every round. So the Bruins get the Panthers. This could be fun to watch. I don't know that these are two teams I think about together very often. So I'm curious, what do you guys think about this one? I'm going to take the Bruins, but that's all I'll say for now. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I think the Bruins have probably the best top line in hockey. I think Pasternak is an absolute animal. He's just amazing. Probably one of my favorite players in the league. If I had to pick a top 5, he's up there. Marchand's still there. He's nasty rat out there. He'll lick you in the face.
That's a big X factor, dude.
That's a big X factor.
Licking people in the face.
That can win you a
Stat that we
series.
Keep more track of.
Yeah, dude.
Especially nowadays, you get the whole team sick. You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to take the Bruins here for sure.
I'm in the same boat.
All right.
The Bruins are just so freaking deep. They have the goaltending, have the defense, and like Zach said, have one of the best, if not the best, top line in hockey, and are just 4 lines deep all the time. There's a reason that they're the President's Trophy winners. Yeah, that's all I can really say about the Bruins.
Yeah.
I do love McAvoy a lot. He's one of my favorite defensemen in the NHL. And like,
I do like McAvoy.
And like Zach said,
It's funny, I hate the Bruins more than any other team, but they've got a couple players that I really love. Pasternak, McAvoy, even Bergeron I like to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, Marshall, you touched on... lost my train of thought there. But whatever. So, basically, I think I was talking about the President's Trophy. President's Trophy winners sometimes lose.
yes.
The thing about that is it's not usually President's Trophy winners who keep popping up in the conference finals and keep popping up in the Stanley Cup finals. This is a team that's been there, done that. They've still got Rask in net. Halak had a great season for them as well. I believe they split the Jennings Trophy, Halak and Rask.
Yeah.
So they've got quality goaltending. They've got, I think, the second best line in hockey, but I might be a little biased because I think the best is McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog.
When they're all healthy.
But again, one of the undeniably one of the top 3 lines in hockey, probably top 2. All around, very solid team. They won the President's Trophy for a reason. The Panthers are a good team, but they're just outmatched here. So we're gonna send the Bruins through. Let's get into our next one.
Really quick,
Oh,
I would
ahead,
just like to
Marshall.
add that I think this series is going to be a little bit closer than like a lot of people might expect. Not super close. I do think that the Panthers can string off a couple wins, though.
Yeah, fair enough. I think the Panthers are a good team. They'll make some noise, but eventually go out. Yeah. So let's get into. Didn't see this series coming, but I really want this to happen now. The Tampa Bay Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs might be one of the most exciting series to watch in recent memory.
Yeah, that is an offensive, absolute gong show. Just
about as star-studded as a playoff series can get. What do you think, Zach? Who takes this one?
I feel like the Lightning take this one. The Leafs, they're obviously so stacked, and if you want to get into it, they could win this year. But I think they're a year or 2 out, and they need to figure out their defense after this year. I got to take the Lightning, but also this could be a very close series.
Yeah,
definitely.
Like Billy was saying, I think this series can be one of the most exciting series to watch. I'll be tuning into this game into this series whenever I get the chance. One thing though, the Leafs are gonna, well, at least in the first round after the receiving or after the play-in rounds, are not gonna have to play the Bruins. So maybe that kind of
amazing.
Maybe that kind of just sparks a little bit of fire under their butts. But
maybe when the Leafs don't play the Bruins, they're actually just incredible in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they just go on fire and run it all the way to the cup.
Yeah, but I'm definitely going to take the Lightning here. I do think that the talent matches up pretty well, but the Leafs have just been so inconsistent and don't have that like defensive X factor like Hedman.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really want this series to happen.
As much as I love Tyson Barrie, he's no Hedman.
Yeah, or Morgan Riley.
And he's not a great defender per se. I am going to take the Leafs here just to give him a little bit of love. I think this series could go either way. I think this is a worst-case scenario for the Lightning in the first round.
That's very true.
Playing a team that can match their star power. Toronto's got a lot of talent. So does Tampa. This is really two teams that match up very well against each other. I'm more excited to watch this one than I would be to like decide who wins. But I'll give the Leafs a little bit of love just because I think this series will be close. But regardless, I'm outvoted, and the Lightning will move on. So we're going to move on to our next series. Marshall, a team you like here, the Capitals, playing my second. So your second team and my second team, the Capitals and the Hurricanes. I'll let Zach start. What do you think?
This is a series with a lot of star power too. The Capitals obviously coming off a Stanley Cup a few years ago. Ovechkin's still an elite goal scorer, and he's getting better with age, kind of like Tom Brady. He's keeping pace with his past selves and, getting better. The Hurricanes obviously are a good team too. This is a hard one for me, though. I don't know. I kind of feel like my gut feeling wants me to say Capitals, so I got to take the Capitals here. Probably in 6. I feel like the Capitals could take that in 6.
I would agree with Zach. I think this game goes 6 or this series goes 6 or 7. But I'm just going to take the Capitals here. I think that they still have just another year or two of elite like title contention. This is going to be a fun series to watch as well. But just the Caps have so much offensive firepower still. Even with the resurgence of Jacob Vrana and Tom Wilson's had a really solid year. Tom Wilson is another one of those guys that you hate to when he's not on your team, but love him when he is on your team. He gives the Caps just a little bit of an X factor in that category. And whether or not it's deserved, I think they have the Norris Trophy winner from John Carlson this season. But like I said, whether or not that's deserved, we can get into that another date. But still, just...
Yeah. Because from one Norris candidate to another,
Yep.
Jacob Slavin on the Hurricanes. I am taking the Canes here. I've been outvoted, but I'll touch on them anyway. I don't think there's a team in the NHL that has improved more since the trade deadline. Brought in Vinny Trocheck. They lost Eric Holla, but Trocheck a clear upgrade. All they gave up were a couple of pieces. Lucas Wallmark hurts a little bit, but wasn't going to be a big X factor in this series. Marty Necas looks like he could be a star in the making. He'll be on that second line making some noise for them. They brought in pieces in defense, because they didn't think they were going to have Hamilton for the playoffs, so they brought in Sammy Vatanen and Brady Shea. Turns out now they do have Hamilton for the playoffs, so they've got Dougie Hamilton, Jacob Slavin, Brady Shea, Vatanen. They've got the deepest defensive core in the NHL. They've also got Morgan Geekie, made one of the most impressive NHL debuts in recent memory. I think this is a team with just so much talent. They've got a bright future. Maybe this isn't their year. I think they've got a chance to make a run, but even if they don't, this is a team that's set up to be good for a long time.
I like that analysis, Billy. But like you were saying, I think that this is just kind of an interesting matchup for the Hurricanes because I think that the Capitals just have another year or two.
When you're at this point in the playoffs, every team is very good. So
yeah.
You have to do some nitpicking to try and weed out some of these teams. So definitely there's good reason to believe the Capitals will win this one. They're the higher seed, for one. But they're going to advance for us. So let's get into our last first-round matchup between the Flyers and the Penguins. And I was just telling Zach off the air, I feel like this happens every couple years. Flyers and Penguins run into each other a lot.
Yeah.
I really like the Flyers this year. I think they take this one. I think they're another team that got hot towards the end, started to make some noise, maybe looked like they were going to be a lower seed, ended up finishing in the top 4. What do you guys think happens in this series? Zach, we'll start with you.
Okay, the Flyers and the Penguins. This is always a hard-fought series. The winner of this series is going to be, bruised up coming into this next round. I would not want to be them, but I think the Penguins end up coming out of this one on top.
So I'm going to disagree with Zach. I'm taking the Flyers. I absolutely love the Flyers, if being honest. I think they have one of the better offensive cores, and not only like offensive firepower, but defensive offensive players. I mean,
Yeah.
Couturier. I mean, there's just so much going on with what the Flyers is here, and I
Not to
do
mention
love
Carter
Carter Hart. Yeah.
Same page.
Right.
Yep. I really like the Flyers. I think that this is a year that they can maybe take it all the way.
Yeah, I definitely think they're a real player in this this playoff. So we are going to send the Flyers through, lose the Penguins here. And once again, boys, we have sent the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds through, just like we did in the West. I hope this has been an interesting video for all our viewers, because nothing interesting happened. So, let's get into our first one here, Bruins-Flyers. Oh, I'm on the fence here. So, Marshall, I'll let you start. What do you think happens between the Bruins and the Flyers?
This is a series, let me tell you what. I'm saying this game goes to 7, triple overtime, game 7.
Oh, okay.
And Sean Couturier scores the game-winning goal in triple overtime, game 7 to send the Flyers to the Eastern Conference Finals.
No, I think Carter Hart scores the game-winning goal by clearing his crease, because Rask is just going to be so tired that it's going to work. No.
I would.
What do you think,
But
Zach? Oh, go ahead,
For
Marshall.
consistent. Oh, okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I just really like the Flyers this year.
Okay.
Nothing against the Bruins, but
For consistency's sake, I gotta take the Bruins here. Because I just said the Flyers. I didn't think they were gonna beat the Penguins.
yeah.
I gotta say the Bruins are gonna win this right now. I do think they are a better team than the Flyers, even if they were playing each other. Yeah, that's about for the same reasons I've said before.
All right. So I didn't know how to pick this series, still don't, but now I'm the tiebreaker. So my decision is final. I really like what the Flyers have going on. I think Carter Hart could be one of the best goalies in the league here soon. I don't think he is yet. I think
this
this
is
whole
a very
stoppage
hard
leans
one.
towards the Bruins. I think that's going to flip me, because I think the Bruins have a lot of older players, and you might have said they could be worn out at this point, just because, sometimes when you get the older guys, they run into that issue. But with the stoppage, everyone's going to be fresh, and I think that's what's going to tilt me towards the Bruins. So, as much as I hate to do this, because I hate the Bruins, I'm sending them through. And let's get into our other conference semifinal matchup here, the Lightning and the Capitals.
So I think we're gonna have another 1-2 conference matchup. If I'm projecting this right from you guys.
I think
But,
you're right, because I'm taking the Lightning.
I am also taking the Lightning. I think the Lightning are out for vengeance this year after getting swept in the first round last season. They just have so much talent, head to toe. John Cooper is a pretty solid coach. So, yeah, Lightning. Lightning are moving on here for me.
Yeah, I also think the Lightning, they smell blood in the water this year. They're going all the way, I feel like.
Yep. I agree. I think, I will say this. If the Lightning... We have the Lightning going all the way to this point. If the Lightning do lose in the first round again, I think it might be time to blow that up and say, hey, we've got a lot of talent, but we can't win in the playoffs. This is the Lightning have more to prove than anyone else in the playoffs this year. And I think they have to get it done. And I think that they will. I'm picking them over the Capitals. I said I think Carter Hart's could be one of the best goalies in the league. I think Vasilevsky is the best goalie in the league today. But once again, we have the 1-2 seeds in the conference final, so we really love the upset here at Off Brand. We like to make some bold predictions. 1-2 Bruins Lightning. I'm going to take the Lightning here. I think that the Lightning are a little bit of a better team. I think they would have won the President's Trophy had the season been allowed to continue. They started out so slow, and then they got red hot. It would have been a race, but I think they would have won the President's Trophy. What do you guys think? Who are you taking here?
I'm also taking the Lightning. But I don't know if they would have caught the Bruins. It would have been kind of hard to do that. But I do think that they're the most talented and the best team, at least regular season team in the NHL. They took the first few months off, but after that, the Lightning were on an absolute tear. It's pretty consistent with Kucherov and the rest of their boys down there. Like, they all kind of just took a few months off, but then, like, yo, we're a pretty freaking solid hockey team here. Let's just go out and kick everyone's butt. And that's what they ended up doing. Like Zach and Billy were saying, I just think that this is a resurgence and a revenge year for the Lightning. This is just a revenge tour for them. And I see them moving on to the Stanley Cup. Nothing against the Bruins. I think this goes 7, but yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Right. This probably goes 7. The Bruins are an elite team in my book. They to win this series, they would need help from their younger players like Jake DeBrusk, and maybe on the back end get some scoring from somebody like a Torrey Krug. But in the end, I got to take the Lightning here too.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So we're
2-2
we're
matchup.
at least sending the 2 seeds to the Stanley Cup final. We'll have the Lightning taking on the Avs. All right, Avs fans. So we all love the Avs, but how do we think the series plays out? Zach, let's start with you.
Yeah, this is a loaded up series. You got superstars all over the place.
Yeah.
Nathan McKinnon, Steven
exactly.
Stamkos, Victor Hedman, Kel McCarr, Mikko Rantanen, just everywhere you
pretty
look,
much
superstars.
10 players on each team could
Kucherov.
Literally score at any given point. In the end, I think this really breaks my heart. But like I said, the Lightning are they smell blood in the water this year. This would be the Avs' first time in the Stanley Cup final with this new core since 2001. I think in the end, I got to say, in a hard-fought series, the Lightning will take this one and win the Stanley Cup.
All right, Marshall, what do you think?
I'm in the same boat, breaking my heart, wearing my Avs hat. But this is just the beginning for the Avalanche. They're still a very young team with a very, very solid young core. I just think the Lightning are just a little bit more experienced and just at this point just a little bit better than us. But if we had one series that would be more exciting than the Toronto and Tampa series, I think this is the one that happens in the Stanley Cup. If you match the Avalanche up against the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stanley Cup Finals,
this is the one the NHL wants to happen because this is how you grow hockey. You put this on TV. You say, hey, this is what hockey is, you know?
Yeah.
So this is, like, just electrifying talent. I'm on the same page. I think that the Lightning are the better team. I think the Eastern Conference is better than the West this year. I do think the Avs are the best in the West, but at some point, you got to be the best in the league, and that's what the Lightning are. So I would like to say, like, the Avs have a chance in this series. Like, it's not a runaway Lightning. I think it goes 6 or 7, and I think the Avs really do put up a fight. But at the end of the day, I have to pick the team I think is a little bit better, and that's the Lightning. So
really, to me, what makes the biggest difference is goaltending. I think, like you were saying, Billy Vasilevsky is the most talented goaltender in the league.
Yeah.
And I'm just still not 100% sold on the Avs goaltending tandem. They can obviously catch fire and bring the Avs to the Stanley Cup, but at the end of the day, I'm taking Vasilevsky over the goaltending tandem that the Avs have.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is the biggest difference between the two teams. Both of them have star power at the front and the back. Hedman may be a little bit more developed than Cale Makar being the other difference, but very similar teams as far as roster construction goes, and the missing piece for the Avs is that goaltender. Maybe Grubauer, he's still not maybe he hasn't fully reached his potential. Maybe he does take another step in the coming years, but what he is today is definitely not Vasilevsky, and I don't think, even at his best, he'll be Vasilevsky.
One thing I believe that the Avs have an advantage in this series is Nathan McKinnon, though. I do think that the Avs have the overall best player out of both teams. I know it's probably a hard-fought competition between him and Kucherov, but I'm taking McKinnon over Kucherov. So,
I agree completely. Mm-hmm. All right, so the off-brand pod's Stanley Cup champion is unfortunately not the Avalanche. It is the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is where we're going to go ahead and end it for today. Before we do that, do you guys have any last things you want to touch on?
Sad day for Avs fans.
Yeah, sad day.
Sad day. Our
we're
team
able to see all
only
this
made it
happen.
to the Stanley Cup final and has bright pieces for the next 10 years. So sad.
It's a brutal loss, though. It's a brutal loss. You hate to lose in the finals.
It'll be tough. If this happened, if the Avs lose in the Stanley Cup final, it's going to be tough.
It stings.
I will probably cry. But
yeah.
I've been telling Zach, if they do win the Stanley Cup, I'm probably sprinting outside of my apartment and running down the block at least a few laps.
Right. The Avs
Just
lose,
taking laps.
I'll cry.
Definitely.
The Avs win, I'll also cry.
If they win all of Fort Collins, we'll hear my cheers. So it'll be a fun day. I haven't seen one of my teams win a championship in my lifetime. I guess in my lifetime I have. I've seen the Avs win a cup, and I saw the Colts win a Super Bowl, but neither one of them was when I was old enough to really care. So I haven't really gotten to feel that victory. I'm excited for the Avs to change that for me. But we're going to take off here for today. If you like what we're doing here at Off Brand, go ahead and support us on Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/off_brand. We appreciate any support you can give. And if you don't, if you just want to watch our videos, that's fine too. You can also check out some of the other pods we've got. We've got our Off-Brand Sports pod. We've got our Off-Brand Top 10s pod. We're actually going to do a deep dive on the Carolina Hurricanes as well as the Denver Nuggets on our sports pod tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. You can find us on SoundCloud. Sorry, we actually are not on SoundCloud. I take that back. We're not on SoundCloud anymore, but we are on Spotify and iTunes here soon. YouTube as well if you're listening somewhere else. But we'll see you guys in our episode next week. Everyone have a great week.